Hello and welcome to the 21st episode of Jedi Eternal. I'm one of your hosts, Andrew Bolin, alongside my guitar hero buddy, Braxton Taylor. How you doing, sir?
Oh, pretty good. We had a riveting match of Guitar Hero right before this. Like, I found an emulator online, and we sitting here like trying to prepare for the podcast, and we're just like, "Hey, you want to play some Guitar Hero?"
So random. Like, we went from planning today to all of a sudden we're just rocking out. But it was good.
Yeah,
it made me feel like I
yeah.
was 14 all over again.
Oh, I know. Man. So many good memories with that show for sure.
So anyways, we took a week off.
Yes.
We had 20 consecutive weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then we took 1 week off. We're back. And of course, the 1 week we take off, like, it's just been like news story
happened.
after news story.
Well, the last week, the episode 20 that we did, like, there was like nothing.
Yeah.
Like I remember even saying like, well, "I'm sorry guys, we just don't have anything," and then all of the stuff.
It's like the floodgates opened on when we decided to take a week off. So, anyways, we're back and we've got a lot of stories to talk about today.
Oh yeah.
One of our biggest rumors that we are going to talk about today, we're actually going to save for our main topic, so stick around for that. But we're going to jump straight into the news first.
Oh yeah.
And so our first story here is Jon Favreau offers a Mandalorian Season 2 update. And so if any of you have had any concerns about if we are going to continue to see this released in October like it was originally announced, do not fret, because Jon Favreau tells us that it's still planned. They're in post-production. Everything's going well. So it looks like we're still getting that in October. What do you think?
Have no fear. Jon Favreau is here. No, I'm excited. And that was one issue that I think that we were kind of worried about. I think everybody was a little bit like, oh man, is this going to affect the release date?
Right.
But I think here's the thing: whenever they released the fact that it's coming out in October, like whenever we talked about it in February or whenever it was, I don't even remember, March maybe.
I don't even
remember. The fact that they were saying that in my mind meant that we were pretty much done with it. So this just kind of confirms it to me. If there was going to be a delay in production, then we wouldn't have gotten in October.
Well,
so.
and I understand some people's hesitation. For example, I don't know if you follow The Walking Dead at all, but that series, its finale was cut off because they couldn't finish post-production.
Oh man!
And for that episode, and so they're having to wait until California reopens enough for them to finish the episode to release it. And so so that kind of shows that some places aren't as prepared to do this from homes or however they're doing it. And we don't necessarily know how Jon Favreau and his team are doing it, but however, whatever their plan is seems to be working, because it seems to be releasing still in October, which is great.
And I'm great. Yeah, I'm very happy about that.
Because with the way things are going right now, we may not have a lot of content coming out in the fall and early next year,
right?
Because so many things have been on hold. Delayed, but if we continue to get Mandalorian, though, that'd be awesome. Yeah,
we will have Mandalorian in October. And one thing, I guess, good, bad, or indifferent, we do have the High Republic stuff coming out in January. So I guess that kind of fills that void to some extent, and as we get that. So, but good news overall. We're glad that it's still scheduled for October, and we're excited to watch that. So let's move on. So our second news topic for the day is that the Certain Point of View book series, they released a new book, or they announced it, should I say, for episode 5, Empire Strikes Back. So interestingly enough, like so the last one came out, and Drew, I know you really enjoyed the one for New Hope.
Absolutely.
And so what are your thoughts on this one? That
I'm so excited for this. Yeah. I loved the first one. The reason they're doing it is they're celebrating 40 years. So they celebrated 40 years of New Hope. So they had 40 authors tell 40 different stories, and short stories, of course. Right. And it was basically, they would tell stories about, like, a lot of it was like background characters that you didn't really know anything about. They didn't have stories to them, and they made like reason and purpose for all of those characters.
Right.
And it's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I highly recommend everyone go back and read that and then go watch A New Hope. And it really changes a lot.
Yeah, it really gives that kind of flesh to it. You know what I'm saying?
It does.
You know, because again, we've talked about this many, many different times before. And in fact, we even had an episode, like, I think anyway, that talked about like what our favorite thing about Star Wars, like why do we like Star Wars? And one thing I know that both of us kind of agreed upon was that Star Wars is more than just a story. It's a whole universe that you can dive into.
Right.
And that's one cool thing. You may not be super interested in this certain point of view because they're just short stories, but really, if you love Star Wars, you will be interested in this because it gives you that flesh. You know, it gives you that further depth and dimension to the Star Wars universe that you may or may not have beforehand. So
and so
cool.
This will be 40 stories again. And we have all 40 authors. I'm not going to read off all 40 authors because
no, there's no need.
There's no need to do that. But I will go ahead and mention a couple of these that StarWars.com itself has noted. And so we have Austin Walker, and he's going to explore the unlikely partnership of bounty hunters Dengar and IG-88 as they pursue Han Solo.
Yeah.
So that could be a good one.
That's going to be pretty cool. Yeah.
I'll be interested to see what that is. Hank Green, it chronicles the life of a naturalist caring for Tauntauns in the frozen world of Hoth.
Hank Green, really interesting. And that's a pretty interesting subject too.
yeah, definitely. And
that's
then
cool,
Tracy Dion delves into the dark heart of the Dagobah cave where Luke confronts a terrifying vision.
Ooh.
I'm very excited for that.
That's cool. Because there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of confusion to that.
Yeah.
Because me and you were kind of going back and forth on...
when we had that quiz.
Yeah, and we're like, whoa.
It's tripping us up.
Yeah, anyway, so that's going to be really cool. It's going to give some more clarity. And because here's the cool thing, guys, is that, as I'm sure you're already aware, whatever these short stories reveal to us are canon. Like, this is what is going on in the universe, and this is why XYZ happened. You know what I'm saying? So it's pretty cool.
Martha Wells reveals the world of the Ugnaught clans who dwell in the depths of Cloud City. Mark Oshiro recounts the Wampa's tragic tale of loss and survival. And then Seth Dickinson interrogates the cost of serving a ruthless empire aboard the bridge of a doomed Imperial starship.
So it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, and that's just 6 of the 40 stories, you know. And I'll tell you what, the first one had some really, really big stuff. Some really, especially even like dealing with, one of the stories deals with like Force Ghost and how that kind of works. And it includes Qui-Gon in that and Obi-Wan and it's just really thrilling stuff. And so I think that this is going to bring a lot of that. And so all of those are new authors, I believe, to Star Wars, but I will go ahead and just mention to you guys that there are some beloved authors as well that we are familiar with and that have done a lot of Star Wars books, such as Alexander Freed, Jason Fry, E.K. Johnston. There's a lot of different ones. Delilah Dawson. Different names.
So a lot of good stuff. A lot of good storytellers that's going to be in there.
Yeah. So that everyone keep that on your calendars. It's I don't think I said the date though.
Yeah, I don't think I mentioned it either.
November 10th.
Yeah.
It arrives on November 10th and is available for pre-order now. So
sweet. Yeah, that's awesome.
Make sure to pick that up. It's going to be good.
Absolutely.
So, moving on to our next story. Obi-Wan Kenobi series will use same VFX technology as The Mandalorian. Now, we're getting this because of a interview that was done with Ace Nation, and they were talking to McGregor, and he said, let me see if I can find the exact quote. He said that, can I find it? I don't know if you've seen the behind the scenes of the Mandalorian series, but they employ that incredible screen. It's pretty amazing. It makes you feel like you're in the place. It's going to feel realer for us as actors, and I think we'll be using some of that technology on our show.
Yeah. And the fact that Ewan even has that kind of presumption most likely means... Because here's the thing, and this is what I was going to say about this, is that why wouldn't they, right? This is it's amazing, incredible groundbreaking technology. You know what I'm saying? Because even there was that episode and it had Favreau and then Filoni was talking about it, and Filoni was even had talked to George, and George was like, yeah, and back when I was making movies in the early 2000s, we had blue screen and it was very limited and stuff like that. But to make something so realistic with these screens, it's a great technology to use. So I guess my point is that like even though there was no like specific like Star Wars saying yes, this is true.
Right.
The fact that Ewan is saying this to any degree, plus the fact that it's their technology, they're already utilizing it in Mandalorian, it would only make sense.
Yeah, that's why we decided to put it as news because,
Yeah.
I mean, if he's saying it, it's most likely going to happen.
Right.
You know, I guess there is a small chance that this, he could just be speculating and they may not be using it, just so everyone knows that. But
Yeah.
we're pretty certain that, you know, he knows what's going on.
Yeah,
so.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, he's on set, so.
Right.
Well, he may not be on
probably
set
not
right now, but
yeah,
you
not
know
on
what I'm
set yet. But they're probably talking to him about how things are going to work.
Yeah. And again, I mean, why wouldn't they use that? Because as he said, even, you know, it is easier to film it because there's less post-production with blue screen and stuff, but also it helps the actors to get their mindset, like, they feel like they're there, you know what I'm saying?
And I don't believe that we know if Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni are involved in the series.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that that's been said, but we do know that Deborah Chow is directing, and she directed episodes of The Mandalorian, which does use that technology, so she's familiar with it already. And
why not just stick with something you're already using, right?
Yeah.
If it's good.
Yeah. So good things ahead. Can't wait for that series.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm foaming at the mouth for the Kenobi series.
He's also quoted to have said, I think in the same interview, I don't have it here right with me, but he said something similar to the fact that he was more excited for this than he was back when he did The Phantom Menace.
No kidding.
Yeah, like this, he's more excited to come back to Star Wars now than he was at the beginning when he was first.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. So I mean, that gives me great hope.
He's passionate about it, and that just makes it even better. So.
Yeah, any character that comes in passionate about their role and about the lore and everything, you know, that much better. So great news there. I have one more thing to say about that. Okay,
Sorry,
no, go ahead.
I forgot I wanted to mention this. I also saw where he said that he has the perfect title he thinks for the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do you have any guesses?
I mean, I don't know. Go ahead.
He said that he thinks it should be called "Hello There," an Obi-Wan story.
Okay, now that you say that, I could definitely see it. Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. Yeah. I wouldn't be mad if they used that.
Hello there.
Hello there. Anyway, yeah, good stuff. So let's move on to our next news story, and that is
was that General Grievous or Watto?
My Watto's a lot louder, and it definitely sounds more like Watto. Like, hey, Anakin, I'm Toydarian. I only do.
I'm glad you stepped back.
Yeah,
from
I'm
the
like
mic
probably clipping a little bit.
You're still clipping even now. So
I was supposed to say it's very loud. I can't do the voice probably without being loud. So
we apologize to anyone.
And also, you're welcomes. If you need to come to birthday parties or get videos, you know, maybe a cameo for Watto, I can do it. So anyway. So next up, and so this one's kind of a sad announcement here. So let's take this fun that we're having and just bring it real down. And we're going to get into Star Wars Celebration that was scheduled to be in August, is unfortunately canceled this year. So Star Wars Celebration 2020 is unfortunately canceled. So it has been. Excuse me. Can you get your pain out of the mic, please? It has been rescheduled for 2022, and it's still going to be in Anaheim as well. So it's basically just kind of be the same exact thing as what they had planned this time, just going to be moved to the next 2-year date forward, which it does kind of stink. You know, I mean, I didn't know if I was going to be able to go anyway, but just the fact that I know that so many people are kind of disappointed about this because, you know, I know, for instance, you, Drew, you was planning to go and everything was ready to go and stuff.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on this?
Well,
other than pain,
other than the severe pain I feel inside right now. Listen, I get it. It couldn't have happened. There's no way they could have had it this year. So I get that. I was already at peace with it long before they actually announced it. I still felt the pain when it was official, but like, you know, I had already came to grips with it. But the interesting thing, the big takeaway from all this though, is that it's not coming in 2021.
Right.
It's coming in 2022 now.
Which I know they're wanting to keep that 2-year thing.
Well, and there's a reason for that. The big reason is D23 scheduled for 2021 in Anaheim.
Yes, gotcha.
I believe it's in Anaheim. So that's kind of probably why they had to push it to 2022.
They don't want to overlap or something like that.
Yeah. So, but it's set for August 2022, I believe. I'm gonna just have my ticket transfer over.
Yeah.
So that way I'll still be set to go.
Yeah. So let me throw this out here, kind of as something to think about for everybody listening at home. This is something for people like myself we got to worry about. If they have the option to transfer all these tickets, that's less tickets that's going to be available for purchase in 2022.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
So that's something I'm personally worried about, because I've had a lot of things change in my life this year in terms of jobs and school and stuff like that, so I wasn't going to be able to go. But obviously 2 years from now, I'll be out of my probationary period at work, and I've already been graduated for a long time, blah, 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 right? So I'll definitely have a much better chance of being able to go in 2022. So, but with that being said...
Except you'll have like 3 kids and...
Yeah, we'll see about that. If I have 3 kids by then, I'm
triplets.
Something's happening.
You're going to have
pretty
triplets.
Crazy.
You won't be able to do anything at all. Because you'll...
Yeah, I'll just leave them at home, put them in like an animal cage with some water. And
you hear first, folks. Braxton keeps his kids in animal cages. So
for those who are listening, I don't actually have kids. I'm just kidding.
Reported.
Just kidding.
All right.
Anyway, so my point is that before you derailed me on that.
I derailed you.
Yeah. No, it is a little bit worrisome because, you're like, well, it's hard to get tickets now, like on a regular basis.
Yeah.
They sell out pretty quick within the week that they come out, and then now they're going to have way less.
Well, so let's just go back to a year ago, when tickets first were released for when it was supposed to be in August.
Mm-hmm.
And the 5-day tickets were gone within hours.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And so,
like, and people who like the Jedi Master tickets, they were gone within seconds.
Right.
Seconds.
Yeah. The Master was less than an hour were gone, and then it was all. Basically, you could only get like a day ticket for 1 day or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
That was all that was left. And so, so if we're looking at, let's say, I don't know, 50, even if 50% of people transfer their tickets over, we're looking at a very small number that are actually going to be able to get those, unless they open up for more people. But I don't see how could they? I assume they already had the max. They were selling the max amount
or pretty close.
That can take.
Imagine. Yeah. And that is one of the big issues. And because this thing, I imagine there is going to be probably a chunk of people who return it for the cash because of the times that we're in. People probably need money and things like that. Yeah. So there might be a decent amount that return tickets and stuff.
I saw a lot of people say, I went ahead and canceled before they even officially announced. So they didn't. They just went ahead and canceled, and I'm glad I didn't because. They automatically canceled my hotel because I reserved my hotel through the block for the convention. So they took care of all that for me.
Right.
And then I just get my thing carried over. I don't have to do anything at all. It's just going to transfer over.
Yeah. That's really convenient.
Yeah. So they actually made it really easy on those that do want to continue to go.
So it's just something to be aware of for everybody that's out there. Because, if you haven't, purchase a ticket and it's not being transferred over and blah blah blah, something to be thinking about. If you do, and this is one thing that I'm going to go ahead and just do as well. I always make this mistake, is if I even think I'm going to go, just buy my ticket and I can just resell it later. I make that mistake every year. And last time I bought mine from a secondhand reseller, probably 4 times the amount that the original ticket was.
Yeah, and I also want to say my little sister commented on our post about Celebration being canceled that cue Andrew crying in the corner. I just want to mention that I noticed that, and I saw those that laughed at it too, and so you're all on my hit list.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Laughing at my expense.
Look at that little schlub.
No, I had a couple agree that they were gonna be crying in the corner too. We'll all cry in the corner together, guys. It's okay.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just I guess look forward to the fact that it's in 2022, and hopefully we all can meet up there someday. So
I'll be 25% more bald, 30 pounds heavier, and
man, those 2 years are gonna treat you well, bud.
I'm basing it.
You will have the triplets.
I'm basing that off of just my first year of marriage. With 2 more years of marriage.
So Never mind. I'm not gonna get you in trouble. Anyway.
Yeah, you about got me. I could tell where you're going with that. Anyways, let's go to our final news story for the day.
I'm sorry. We had no.
And this is an exciting one. Star Wars Squadrons.
Wow.
So,
first of all, I want to say we
were dead on with Project Maverick.
When we announced Project Maverick for the first time, and we were looking at the picture for the first time live on the podcast. Okay, we were looking at it like, hey, is that a TIE fighter? Is that a TIE fighter? I'm like, okay. When we said it, I don't remember which episode it was, but we called. I said, yeah, like we said. All right, we called it here. You guys heard first. It's gonna be like a dogfight, like like a Rogue Squadron type game, and it is.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is coming to PC, PS4, and Xbox One with crossplay on October 2nd, and also is going to be coming to next gen also at some point.
Interesting.
So it is developed by EA's Motive Studio. It is a spiritual successor to the Rogue Squadron dogfight games. Players will assume the role of either a New Republic pilot, an Imperial fighter pilot, as part of the Vanguard and Titan squadrons, respectively. While there is a single-player campaign, Motive's 6-minute video primarily focused on the multiplayer portions. Star Wars Squadrons appears to lean towards the sim side of things. Players will view the action through their cockpits, which doubles as the actual UI, and there will be complicated high-level maneuvers. Squadrons will feature several different multiplayer modes, including a 5v5 dogfight mode and a longer Fleet Battles mode. Fleet Battles are multi-stage solo or co-op battles against either AI or real players. Fleet Battles are broken down into 3 phases. First, players will engage in a dogfight in the middle of the map. Then one of the teams will attack the enemy's medium-sized capital ships, while the opposition defends. Finally, when both capital ships are destroyed, players will have to destroy the enemy's flagships. There will be a total of 8 different ships that were showcased during its gameplay reveal. The roles include the all-rounder fighters, speedy interceptors, support ships, and bombers. Players will be able to customize both their ships and pilots, and Motive reiterated that all the customizations and 50 different ship upgrades can be earned in-game without microtransactions.
Boom.
So what do you think?
So first of all, this was my initial thoughts, and this is something I talked about. I don't think I talked about on the actual podcast, but I think me and you had talked about this. But whenever this was first announced, Project Maverick, and I thought that it was a Rogue Squadron type, dogfight game, I literally said, they're going to have to do something really special with this. I understand this is a smaller game. I understand like the developer called it a quote unquote unusual game. So I know it's not supposed to be this big AAA title that, I get that, right? It's not going to be a Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
But what I will say is that Battlefront 2, just a part of Battlefront 2 is dogfights. Right? Just a part of the game is dogfights. So to have a whole game with dogfights, they're going to have to do something very special. And I'm glad, I obviously don't know all the details yet, but from what it seems, they do seem to be doing that. And that is they are trying to bring in more, like as that article said, more sim environment. So it's less than like, oh, you're just doing a dogfight, flying a ship around, something like that. You're actually trying to simulate what it would be like in the cockpit of a TIE fighter, in the cockpit of a Y-Wing or X-Wing, whatever. And I would say that one really cool thing is a few things that I had heard about this beforehand is that, for instance, you have your squad, right? And you have your teammates with you. Before you actually go into battle, every match, there's like you meet around like the hollow table type thing, and you actually discuss. I don't know how in depth this goes, but you actually discuss your tactics and your plan of attack, and then you actually go in first person view only. And last but not least, if I'm not mistaken, this is actually compatible with PSVR and VR technology. So then people who have that available to them will be able to, again, first-person VR.
Which I'm sure will be very cool.
Very, very cool. I do think there's going to be probably a skill level, base level here, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, so, I had talked about it in the past, thinking that, this would be smaller and that it may kind of just reuse a lot of what Battlefront 2 had already done and kind of grow off of that. And they may still have done that, but it's not recognizable.
Right.
Like when I watched that trailer, I was like, this looks so good. And don't get me wrong, Battlefront 2 looks good too, but this is completely different.
Like it's a whole new level.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's the same. Like it was just taken from Battlefront 2 and just made into a focus on the dogfights.
Yeah, and that's what my thought was. Like they'd have to do something like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And this, so I'm very excited. Now I will say, as far as the multiplayer and stuff goes, will I be like super super into that? I'm not real sure.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not real big on multiplayer anyways. But the single player story, I absolutely will be playing that day one. And then I'm sure you and me will do some multiplayer as well.
Yeah, maybe like it's like me you versus AI type thing. Yeah.
Maybe we'll even try to do that where everyone can watch. Maybe we can do a let's play or something where we do that.
And we've been talking about that, and I know we did that poll a while back, and some of you actually was very much interested in.
So that might be a good one for us to try and do.
Yeah, we definitely embarrass ourselves on that. But,
well, I can tell you for sure we will.
I'm not good at dogfight games, that's for sure.
Yeah, but so I'm really looking forward to this. And as far as talking about canon and things, let's just talk about that for a minute. Mm-hmm. So this story is going to be taking place after Return of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. And so, again, we're kind of getting that beginning of the New Republic type of story.
This is one I was going to ask you because you'd know more about this than I would because of the books and stuff, but how is the Alphabet Squadron going to play into this? Do we know about any of that yet?
So I don't know that the Alphabet Squadron is going to have any role in this. They might mention them. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't. Because they already mentioned our squadrons that we're going to be dealing with, and it appears that the New Republic squadron in this game, which I'd have to look at the name again, I don't remember it right off the bat, but I have it here. But it appears if you watch the trailer, you might see someone that you guys know, and Vanguard.
Gotcha.
Hera Syndulla.
Yeah, I noticed that
is there, and so. Yeah. That's really cool. Seeing her in there again in a more realistic portrayal of her is very cool.
Yeah,
and we've had hints of her in Alphabet Squadron and different things where she's kind of taking on a more leadership role.
Right. Well, she becomes like General Syndulla.
Yeah, General. So, so we're gonna see more of that here, and I'm very excited to see that. But on the Imperial side of things, we also see Rey Sloane.
Yeah.
And that is very cool to see Rey Sloane because we still have a lot of questions about her, where she ends up. I'm not necessarily thinking we're going to get any of those answers in this. I'm sure she'll just be kind of a
playable character. Or like
I don't think she'll be a playable character, but I'd say she'll be kind of telling you what to do, kind of like Hera Syndulla will be the New Republic version of that. I am assuming Rey Sloane will be the Imperial version of that. But it's still cool to see that these characters are, again, being put in new medias and different things, and it just makes it all feel more real.
And this is something that you and I have talked about several times, but it's just like when we are able to see a tie-in from all the different pieces of media, whether it be comic, book, TV show, animation, movie, and they all come together in some type of medium. It really is rewarding to see that.
Right. And so for novel fans, for those that read all the Star Wars books, seeing Rey Sloane in this is always going to be exciting to those because that's where we followed her mostly is in novels. So it'll be great to see that, and maybe we will get hints out where her story goes. I mean, I don't know. You never know.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of cool things coming up. I definitely look forward to this game, just for the sake of the game itself, but also the tie-ins to lore and all that stuff is going to be pretty cool. So let's go ahead.
Rumors here.
Yeah, move on here. So
this is a crazy one that we have here.
Yeah.
I was
going to do it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Lucasfilm. And this I don't know. A lot of the rumors that we have today, some of them seem pretty far fetched, but this is why they're in the rumors.
Yeah, we got some pretty far fetched ones.
Yeah.
But.
So anyway, Lucasfilm is reportedly developing a Palpatine sequel, which will star Nicholas Hoult as Palpatine. So that's what are your thoughts on that? I mean, that's a pretty crazy thing. I mean, to have a Palpatine prequel within itself is pretty nuts. And what do you think of like Nicholas Hoult as Palpatine?
Well, so I think Nicholas Hoult would actually probably play a pretty good young Palpatine. Mm-hmm. I think that I could see that. But the rumor here is that and they're saying we got this covered. They're saying they're the same sources that told them that Ahsoka will be in The Mandalorian and that spoilers, Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter, both which turned out to be correct, told them that a prequel is reportedly in the works that will show young Sheev working his way up the political ladder in his efforts to turn the Galactic Republic into the Empire.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, to me, this feels pretty far-fetched. I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't want to see it. I think it'd be pretty awesome, but I do think it's far-fetched. And I'll tell you why. Because everything that we've seen in Palpatine's previous life, right? And before he was the senator of Naboo and all the, blah, 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 right? It's like his master. Is it Plagius? Is it not? We don't know. Sometimes it's canon. Sometimes we think it's not. You know what I'm saying? Like, where did he come from? Where was he born? What's his family like? And I do think a lot of times, like Yoda, the mystery of the character, this all-powerful seemingly character, right? If we knew all the details of their background, it would make it less special to some, to some extent. So that's why I feel like it is a little far-fetched, because I don't know that they would walk down that pathway. But I definitely think that they would go down a, Palpatine prequel more than they would like a Yoda, background story or something.
Yeah, so like if they were to do this, I would actually be really excited.
Yeah.
Because I love Palpatine.
Yeah.
I mean, give me more of his backstory. I would love it, but yeah, I just can't see them doing it. Mm-hmm. Especially in a series. I think if anything, we'd see that in a novel, right, if we were to get it. Kind of like what we got with the Plagueis novel, which kind of was also a prequel for Palpatine. And in that same, while we're talking about that, in that same vein, I do want to mention there's been a lot of articles coming out saying that Queen's Peril has changed canon, and that Palpatine is Palpatine's backstory with Plagueis is officially not canon anymore, and all this stuff.
Interesting.
I just want to make it clear to everyone that the story that we got about Plagueis was already no longer canon. Right. Just for everyone understands, as soon as Disney bought Lucasfilm, those stories were considered no longer canon. Now, I realize that we have our own head canons, and sometimes we like to keep some of that stuff considered canon until something disproves that. Right. And if that's the case, then yes, this novel did change it, because in the Plagueis novel, Palpatine is still under Plagueis in episode 1. Mm-hmm. And we now know, due to Queen's Peril, we now know that is no longer the case.
Right, he's kind of independent at that point.
Yeah, he's already independent at that point.
Yeah. So
take that as you want, but I do just want for people, because I just saw a lot of articles about it, so I just wanted to clear the air for anyone who's confused, mm-hmm. that story is no longer canon. It was already no longer canon. So Queen's Peril didn't change anything.
Right. Exactly. So anyway, yeah, it is a bit of a far-fetched, in my opinion, but if it is the case, I think it would be really cool to because then in my eyes, then they would have to solidify who, depending on how far back they go in a prequel, I guess, know, who is Palpatine's master? How did he get started?
We know Plagueis is his master.
Yeah, I mean,
we basically know.
Yeah.
We just don't know anything. We don't have any history or how that relationship was.
Right, and that's what I mean when I say that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We'll get more details into that manner. You know what I'm saying? So
right,
if that was to be the case.
Now, I do think that novel was fantastic.
Yeah.
But clearly, that's not the direction they want to go anymore. So,
yeah,
we'll see. I guess if this series happens, maybe we'll see Plagueis, which, I mean, that'd be cool.
That would be awesome. Yeah, that's a great character, Legends character.
So let's move on to our next story here. And that is, now we've been talking about this for a while. Lucasfilm reportedly developing Star Wars The Clone Wars sequel. Now, here's what is interesting about this. They're saying that, and I had a couple people say that they believe this is 100% is happening, like 100%. They have zero doubts about this one.
Yeah,
I'm not going to go that far, but but there some people and that I would consider in the know truly believe this is happening 100%. So take that as you will, but they're saying that the series will have Rex and Ahsoka a little bit, but they're not the main focus. Mm-hmm. The main focus of this series will be the Bad Batch?
So yeah, this is a very interesting point here. So where a lot of this is coming from is, and I'm looking this at StarWarsNews.net, or StarWarsNewsNet.com. Anyway, a lot of this is coming from Corey Van Dyke, and this is where a lot of this is coming from. And he's the host of Kessel Run Transmissions, and he's been making a lot of tweets in recent time that say things. For instance, Fandom says Dave Filoni doubts that they will have continuation of Star Wars Clone Wars creatively. You always want to move forward. I'm glad it's done. Corey Van Dyke then comments on that and says the series itself is finished, but there is something more coming with certain characters. And then he also then goes on to say, if you love Echo, you'll love the Clone Wars spin-off series. So it would make sense, because as we see, and slight spoiler alert, in the final season of Clone Wars season 7, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm gonna lose my mind. Anyway, in the final season of Clone Wars, right? Spoiler alert, we see Echo go with the Bad Batch.
Right.
So, if you love Echo, you'll love the Clone Wars spinoff series. So, if there is one, it does indicate that we're going to see the Bad Batch, at least maybe as the main characters, or at least as a very major part of it.
Yeah, and I don't know where Corey is getting his information.
Exactly.
But he seems very confident.
I mean, he's made several tweets about specific information.
Yeah, and he may even have been the one that I seen say he was 100% sure. Is he? Do you see that?
I'm going through.
There was okay. Well, somebody that also reports on Star Wars said they were 100% sure, and that's pretty. That's a pretty big claim. I mean, yeah. Especially when we have people like Dave Filoni saying creatively, you always want to move forward. I'm glad it's done. You know what I'm saying? So, right. Understandably, so that Clone Wars, the sequel to it wouldn't be Clone Wars. Yeah, and I'm hearing that this could be something that could be coming as soon as fall.
Really? So yeah, I didn't know about that. Yeah.
I again think that's a little bit of a stretch, seeing as I feel like you'd be wanting to reveal that sooner than later.
Exactly. And maybe they were going to have some kind of drop at Celebration, but who knows? I mean, but here's the thing: even if that was the case, they would not be releasing it in the fall if they were announcing it in August. You know what I'm saying? It seems kind of really close.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say if this is real, it would maybe make a little more sense in the spring. Separate it from Mandalorian a little bit.
And that does harken to what our main topic is going to talk about in terms of the length of things that's being released and whatnot.
We'll get to that. A lot to speculate there. Let's go ahead and move on.
Our third rumor for this week in
this is another crazy one. Total.
So yeah, this one's more far-fetched in my opinion than all of them so far. But we're just gonna really report on it because that's what's been going around the mill. So we're gonna have to say something about it. But anyway, Rey will reportedly meet the child or Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian in the future Star Wars movie installments. So I don't know about that. I mean, I'm not saying that it's an impossibility, but I would definitely say for my own thoughts. If they were going to meet anybody, it would make way more sense that it would be like Ahsoka rather than Rey. And that's even if I don't even know if I'd even see them meeting up with Ahsoka.
So,
right?
Let's say this story is real.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Mandalorian's going to be an pretty old dude by this point.
Exactly.
And Baby Yoda, I don't know if it's still going to be a baby or not. I don't know exactly how. We still don't really know how the aging works there.
Exactly.
So Daisy Ridley has been very vocal on the fact that she has no plans to come back to Star Wars.
Well, yeah, and in fact, if I'm not mistaken, and forgive me for not knowing all their actual names, but you got Daisy Ridley with Rey, Poe Dameron, and Finn, and I can't remember all their names off the top of my head, but. If there was a statement, however true this may be, before episode 9 is like, this is our last one. All three of us are not actually coming back. Right. So who knows if that's actually true, but they have made definitive statements that, hey, we're not coming back to Star Wars.
Yeah. And it's one of those things in my head, I'm like, well, we'll definitely see them in like 30 years.
Right.
Like they're definitely coming back. sometime in the future for another trilogy.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
kind of like the Harrison Ford.
Exactly,
and,
exactly.
Mark Hamill and so on.
At some point they'll be back.
Yeah.
I would bet almost everything I have that they'll eventually be back.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's money. So.
Right. But I really have a hard time believing they'll be back anytime soon.
Exactly.
Especially now. I understand Baby Yoda is so popular that they're gonna want to get this creature in everything they can.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, they're seeing Baby Yoda as like a dollar sign right now.
Absolutely. And so I understand that part of it. And so I do think Rey is another, I think, popular character. I think that she has done pretty well with the fans. And so if you get Rey and Baby Yoda in the same movie, I mean,
in their eyes, at least a clear winner.
Right. But yeah, as far as in looking into the Star Wars universe, and considering we just ended with the trilogy, the sequel trilogy, I just don't see that being a thing happening.
Yeah, I don't
anytime soon. So that's why I really think this rumor is very far-fetched.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I'd be interested to see what they could come up with if it is a true story they're working on.
Yeah, I mean, it'd have to be something to do with like the Force.
And we know, 2022, there's something.
Yeah,
we're getting some kind of movie.
Some kind of movie. Yeah, whatever it may be.
24 and 26.
So, yeah, whatever that may be. There's a lot of things it could be. But
Taika Waititi working on something. Kevin Feige's working on something. And Ryan Johnson is supposedly working on something.
Yeah. Plus, we already have Taika. I mean, obviously Jon Favreau as well, but Taika working with The Mandalorian, with Baby Yoda and all this like that. So who knows? I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but it's a possibility, I guess.
Yeah, there's just so much in the works.
Yes,
it's
a lot of things. And again,
come on, Lucasfilm, tell us everything.
Tell us everything you're doing now. All right, so you're going to go ahead and move on to our final rumor for the week.
So our final one here is that D23 in 2021 is looking like it might have quite a few Star Wars announcements at it. So as we talked about earlier with the celebration being canceled and moving to 2022, one of the big reasons we think that that's going to 2022 is because of D23 in 21. And so they're reporting that it's looking like there's a good chance we will see quite a bit more Star Wars at this convention than we've seen in the past, because they usually reserve a lot of that for celebration.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you, I'm sure everyone that listens to this knows exactly what Celebration is and what D23 is, but just for the sake of someone who may not know, right? Obviously, Star Wars Celebration is a Star Wars event, right? D23 is a Disney event. So therefore, while Disney is a part of, Star Wars is a part of Disney, D23 is not going to be all Star Wars. It could be Marvel. It could be Star Wars. It could be, Mickey Mouse or whatever, right? But Celebration, like I said, is what they reserve. So since we're not getting this instance, Star Wars is such a fan favorite, it would make sense if they have all these announcements that they're going to probably try to pack as much as they can into D23 for sure. So it's going to be an interesting year next year in terms of that, to see what they release and stuff like that. So
it'll definitely be something that that fans should keep their eyes out for. Normally, I wouldn't say that it's something a Star Wars fan needs to pay too much attention to in the past, but this coming year in 2021, I'd say keep a close eye on D23, because I could see some big announcements coming out of it.
For sure.
So, and we'll, of course, keep you all posted on that. And we probably won't be there, but we'll we'll keep you posted on if any news comes out.
Exactly.
I just can't help but look at my dog right now, because it's
like his neck's resting on like a metal bar. And it's like, there's no way that's comfortable. But no, it's dead asleep.
It's distracting me.
Or it's unconscious. I don't know. Anyway. All right, so let's move on to releases.
Yeah, so we actually have some releases this week.
Wow.
Believe it or not. We got some good stuff coming this week. So on the 23rd, we have Star Wars Shadowfall, the next novel in the Alphabet Squadron trilogy.
Oh, nice. Okay. Cool.
So very excited for that. I don't know if any of you have been following that series. If you haven't, I recommend you guys give it a try. The first one was pretty good. I think the second one has a lot of potential. And if you're interested in that era, again, it's kind of the start of the New Republic, kind of dealing in that same period as even this next novel or that next video game is going to be taking place in. So it might have some ties into that as well.
Right.
So I would definitely pick that up on the 23rd. Also, on the 23rd is the game that keeps getting pushed back that we've talked about over and over again.
Yeah.
The Star Wars pod racing is finally
there it comes
for PS4 and Switch is actually being released on Tuesday, the 23rd.
Good for
At least
them. Good
that
for them.
is supposedly going to happen. I mean, it could get postponed again at the last minute because it already has repeatedly.
Yeah.
But that is supposedly when it's coming out. So again, if you guys have been looking forward to that, you're finally going to get to play it. So.
Yeah. No. It's a fun game. Like I said, I played that many moons ago on various platforms and stuff like that. But now they're remastering. It'd be fun to play. But it is just kind of funny. Like every time, like, all right, here we go. It's pushed back. So.
And I also want to say about the novel is we will have a spoiler-free review for you guys on that eventually. We will not have it as soon as we had Queen's Peril because we did not get an early review copy of Shadowfall. So it will take us a little bit longer to read through that. But as soon as we've read through that and can talk about it, we will do that here on the podcast for you guys.
For sure.
And then last but not least, on the 24th, Wednesday, we have 2 comic issues coming out, Bounty Hunters issue 3 and Star Wars Adventures, The Clone Wars Battle Tales issue 2. So
nice.
Go get those.
So yeah, we finally got some stuff coming out. That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
After a long time of having kind of a stalled cold area there, it is nice to see some things start working and coming out. So a lot of good things to look forward to and hope for in the Star Wars universe. So we're going to usually go into our Q&A segment now, but unfortunately, we don't have really a lot of questions this time.
No one wants to talk to us.
Well, so I can't blame you guys because I did say last time how we had like 4 billion questions.
Yeah, you shamed them, and now they're all...
Well, it wasn't meant to be shame. I meant it in a good way. But I always say that because like I don't want people to feel bad. Like, oh, why aren't they answering my questions? Like, well, it'll get done. Just it might be a little bit later. That's why I said that. But we didn't have a lot of content on our 20th episode, so we just knocked out like 70 questions just for the fun of it, and yeah, so now we don't have any, and we posted the Q&A yesterday, and we got I think 1 question, so we're gonna go ahead and save that question for next week, and so that way, hey guys, you can. Whoever gets in there, the first 2 questions plus the one from last week or this week will be answered first thing. So without further ado, we're going to move on to our main topic. We're getting somewhat close to our time, but we have a pretty big rumor that we're wanting to talk about, and it's so big, in fact, that we wanted to make it our main topics. So, Drew, you want to take us off here?
Yeah. So this is a big one for me. I want to make clear this is a rumor. This is none of this is confirmed whatsoever, but this is a rumor that I read. And it all started to click for me that this could be a big deal.
Right.
According to LRM Online, a source at Lucasfilm states that the studio is planning to create a universe where all the Disney Plus shows will be connected with a central storyline. The plan is starting mid-2021 to have a Star Wars show releasing every quarter, with one big inspiration being the Game of Thrones series. The shows will be overseen by Dave Filoni, and the planned list includes The Mandalorian, Ahsoka Tano's live-action series, a Boba Fett show, an Ezra Bridger Admiral Thrawn show, and an untitled show starring a new character.
Interesting.
So, the reason that I say this is so big and could be crazy is because we've been getting rumors of all these shows, right? and we've been getting all this information about them, and we've even said here on the podcast is how are they going to make this work?
Yeah,
how can we
work out?
How is it possibly going to work to be doing all of these different shows? And we had even talked about how they would have to be fairly close together in timeline
Yeah,
as well
to even work.
And all of a sudden, if this is their strategy, it's starting to make sense.
Right.
Because if they take all of these different shows and basically treat it as one story,
like linear timeline type
right?
thing. Yeah,
this could actually work.
Yeah, it definitely could work.
Because we're going. So, you know, and I've seen some people comment, not to us, but on other things about this, then saying, well, that's what Star Wars is. It's one big story. Well, yes,
Right, yeah.
Star Wars is a connected universe.
Yeah.
Everything is there. But I don't think that's necessarily what they mean here. They mean all of these shows are focusing in on one. There's one plot,
one plot and
for
one
this.
time era. You know
right.
what I'm saying?
And so all of it is leading to one thing.
Right.
And so, I mean, I kind of look at it as like the MCU. The MCU's movies, you know, they all have their own separate stories. They're all doing, but they're all leading into one big moment together.
It's a great example.
And I really feel like that's what this might be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm on the same wavelength with you there. I think that is a perfect example, in fact. And because here's the thing. I mean, think about it. I mean, at the end of the day, who owns the MCU? Disney. Who owns Star Wars? Disney.
Right.
Who has had phenomenal success? Marvel and MCU, right?
Yeah.
And who is wanting, you see what I'm getting at. But
yeah.
It would make sense because if you like to go back to the MCU, we have all these different movies for different characters, but yet they all still are in that same time span of however many weeks, months, years, right? And they have it all kind of a linear story where they all ends up meeting at the Avengers, or they all end up meeting for whatever, and that could very easily work. Now, this is something I'm thinking of. We're getting all these shows, and supposedly, right? And this is rumor, but this is just my thoughts. Is that we could be getting all these shows of Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Thrawn, and Ezra, and so on and so forth, right? And they could all end up meeting up in 2022 in whatever undisclosed movie it is at almost like the Avengers. I doubt it, but it's a possibility if they're following that same typecast. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. So I agree, because if they are doing these each separate series, and they're all telling one story, there will eventually have to be something that leads to them all together, right?
Yeah.
Most likely.
Makes sense.
And with Game of Thrones being the main inspiration, I think that, at least in my eyes, what I believe that means is you look at Game of Thrones and they take all these different characters, all different locations, all doing different things.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, what did you think that the meant?
So they're all different places, but somehow and eventually it all connects into the same place, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that was my thoughts as well, because I was going to ask you that, see if we kind of coincided, but that's exactly my thoughts as well. When he or whoever it was, right, said that they were going to take inspiration off of Game of Thrones, although it is a singular show, so it would be a little bit different in the fact that there's different shows and stuff like that. But but it makes sense, because if you watch Game of Thrones or you read it in the books or what have you, it goes for one, I don't really know all the characters off the top of my head, but Bran, right, which is the one in the wheelchair, right? He for instance, he's at the spirit tree or whatever, right? And all of a sudden it goes to Arya, and she's over in the the temple of the no face, whatever, right? And then all of a sudden you go to this completely unrelated character, which is the mother of dragons and stuff. She's over some desert country, So yeah, I definitely see that, and eventually they all meet up to some finale, right?
Right.
And which again is a lot like the MCU, right?
Right.
So I definitely can see the pattern there,
Yeah.
and I could definitely see them trying to make those same steps for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I think there's just a lot of potential here.
Yeah,
if they decide to go this way. Now the other twist to this to think about is they said this is going to be something that releases every quarter. If it released every quarter, that would be amazing.
Yeah,
I can't even tell you how amazing
fantastic.
that would be.
Yeah.
If we got a new Star Wars show every quarter,
Well,
starting in mid 2021.
If they're going to be having this many, I mean, they'd have to do that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And then the question, well, I have a couple of questions, but one of those questions would be, how long does that go for?
Exactly.
Do each of those series have one season, and then they do or is it going to be something that those seasons carry on for a while? I don't know. That's
a good question.
That's
I
kind
don't know.
of,
I don't know.
but Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say the logistics that they'd have to figure out. That's part of it. You know what I'm saying? That they'd have to figure out if they want to have things overlap or if they want it to end and go directly.
Right,
for sure.
But then the other thing that I find interesting about this is, where does a show like Kenobi
fit in? Well, the fact that they didn't mention it in that article makes me think that's not the
so
same.
I don't believe it. There's no way it could be the same, because
In terms of the timeline.
in terms of timeline, there's no way.
I mean, there's no
Kenobi's
way.
long gone.
Yeah.
What I'm saying though is, if we're looking at this from a marketing perspective, how are they going to have a show like Kenobi and then at the same time be continuing this?
Yeah, I see what you're
You know
getting
what I'm
at.
saying?
You're basically
I feel
saying,
like they're going to be worried about confusing people.
Right. It's going to confuse people, and B, how you're going to get the hype of Kenobi up. And perhaps there may be thinking that Kenobi's a fan favorite. It's going to have its own hype so much so that they don't need to hype it up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But hype is only a factor of it. The other part is, confusion. How are they not going to confuse people? Say, oh yeah, is this part of this timeline, or is it,
Right. Or will Kenobi, or is Kenobi going to be something that comes out when this is done?
And that could be it too.
I hope not. I want Kenobi.
I
want them to put everything else on a hold and get Kenobi out.
Yeah, if they put everything else on hold for Kenobi, I would be fine with that, 100%.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly how that'll fit. And bringing in something else, we've heard about more shows in the works.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've heard rumors of Dr. Aphra potentially getting a series. Again, that would be set most likely in a different time period than what all these other shows would be. So that would again be kind of interesting to see how they work that in. But also, and this is the one that is really interesting, is we hear this talk all the time about an animated Rebel sequel.
Yeah.
Well, an animated Rebel sequel would have all the characters that all these shows would potentially be about, right?
So either one or the other is not going to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Because a Rebel sequel, literally, it was all these characters. So, I guess you could technically have a Rebels animated series that took place before these live action series starts.
Yeah, perhaps. And maybe it sets up where
'cause
all of
that
them are
would
going to
be-
be or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, there's enough time there, I guess, to do it, but it seems kind of unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, at the point you're kind of like, it's more Star Wars, but it's kind of like, yeah, you're right. It's like unnecessary. Like, why do we need that? It's just,
I almost feel like it's one or the other, right? One of these is crazy talk.
Yeah.
And one of these are really happening.
Which, at the end of the day, if that's the case, I kind of would, I would be more excited about this whole new linear live action multiple series thing rather than just one animated show.
Because I think it could go places if they do it right.
For sure.
But they got to do it right, and
For
that's
sure.
the other big thing here. And when you look at it, so let's talk about like what could this plot be?
Yeah.
What could be the focus of this?
Yeah.
We got the Mandalorian and the child. We have Ahsoka, which we already know, or at least it sounds like I guess we don't technically still know for sure, but we're fairly certain that she's showing up in the Mandalorian, right? So, so we have that, and then we have Boba Fett, which has been rumored to going to be showing up in the Mandalorian. So we have Boba Fett here now, and then we're going to have Ezra and Thrawn, which is kind of that's the one that really kind of almost throws it off.
Yeah.
Because the rest of it makes sense if they're branching off the Mandalorian. Ezra and Thrawn's where it's like, oh, this feels kind of more Rebel sequel type of story,
territory, for sure.
And then a brand new character that we don't know anything about.
Yeah, and that's the real clinch pin right there. Depending on who that character is, could really drive it. In my opinion, just hearing this, and I don't really know, right? But I could see obviously the Mandalorian, and then with the child, Din Djarin's wanting to get some help, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to take care of this force sensitive child. So obviously, and also I'm sure at that point Ahsoka is, while searching for Ezra, is probably seeking out
Looking for Or yeah, looking for Ezra.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And
She either A is like just kind of happens upon the child, Baby Yoda, or maybe like she senses him and comes to and meets up in that way to teach him or whatever. And Boba Fett. And I'm just throwing this as a kind of wild, crazy thing out, right? And then maybe she, like with the help of the child, maybe she can utilize both of their Force powers to seek out Ezra through the Force or something like that, right? So that she can link up with, have this bond with him. I don't know, right?
That's it. I like that.
That's an idea. And then to find Ezra, and then obviously Boba Fett. And I think we talked about this before on the last podcast, but I definitely think that Boba Fett could be hired to take out the Mandalorian, to Din Djarin.
Right, yeah.
And
I could,
and maybe, and then like I said, to finish this all off, maybe obviously if you have Ezra, you're probably gonna have Thrawn and that kind of mix there.
Right.
But maybe, who knows? Maybe Thrawn is to some degree the mastermind behind wanting the child for whatever experiment. I don't know, right? I don't know how Thrawn fits into that, but. Yeah, that's just kind of my guess. I really have no idea. I'm just kind of shooting in the dark. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing. With Ezra and Thrawn, we kind of have to see where they've been. There's going to be a big long span of time where the two of them potentially have been together.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. Maybe they split up pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'd be more interesting if they had stayed together. In these unknown regions where, clearly wherever they are must be pretty wild, I would say, right? Like it's not, it's probably not known space. Otherwise, they probably would have came back. So
so there's a lot of things there. I think there's a lot of things there that we could continue speculating on, because that's such a big thing. Like, do you have any final things to say? Because I think we're getting close on our time here.
Yeah. Last thing I would say is, no one expect this to really be happening.
Right. Yeah.
This is definitely just a rumor right now, and it's interesting to talk about, but it's still, again, a pretty far-fetched thing.
Yeah.
But if all these shows are real, then I think it makes sense that this is kind of maybe the way it would go.
Right.
It's just a matter of understanding how all these characters are going to fit in together and how that will play out. And in Mandalorian Season 2 may very well start to reveal some of how that would come together.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're only just gonna have to wait and see, I guess.
At this point, we just got to wait and see, and who knows, maybe we get some release announcements sooner rather than later, and if not, hopefully in D23. So.
Well, now that Celebration is canceled, I'm hoping that they'll go ahead and announce some stuff soon.
Maybe they could have some kind of like planned press thing. I
was hoping for a Celebration online, like a lot of these conventions and stuff have been doing.
Yeah, that was what my thought was as well.
That does not appear to be the case.
No,
they've not. Yeah. They didn't make any suggestion that they were going to be doing anything like that. But I would love to see Star Wars be like, hey, we're going to have one day where we're going to just stream some announcements, something like that, and just announce the day. We all tune in for it and get maybe the next couple of show announcements, or
I just think that
I don't think we'll get a movie announcement yet.
I just don't think it has the fanfare that Disney wants to release big news. I think that's the problem. It doesn't have the fanfare of having a big convention of what I'm saying. So that's kind of why I think that probably what happens.
Yeah, the only thing is if they wait till August of next year, it's going to be. Some things may already
have come out.
So they're going to have to find some way to announce some stuff.
So they're going to have to make their own cool, special, big fanfare digital thing. Or I don't know,
so we'll have to see how that happens. But I think I'm hoping we'll get that sooner than later.
Yeah.
And then we probably won't get movie reveal till maybe D23.
Probably
or if they're real crazy, they might wait to tell us what it is. August of 2022 at Celebration.
I don't know about that.
I think that'd be pretty great. Well, we got the first trailer for Episode 9 at that point, but
that is true.
But we already knew Episode 9 was coming, though, and I think
well, actually, to be fair, though, when we went, it was in April, not August.
Oh, it was April. You're right.
Yeah, so several months beforehand.
True.
Anyway.
So, anyways.
So
we'll
a lot
see.
of things to look forward to. So we're going to go ahead and end for today. We want to thank everybody so much for the continued support towards this podcast, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for bearing with us for kind of our week break. I had some travel going on, and also we kind of want to just take a break after about 20 weeks in a row. But we thank you guys for continuing listening. We really appreciate you all. Please continue to like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter for weekly news, polls, discussions, and more. And also, please follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And feel free to leave a review if you haven't done that yet. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the podcast. But thank you for listening, and join us next week for episode 22. Last but not least, may the Force be with you. And we thank you for joining the Jedi Eternal.